Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3, back with another kicking TV reaction review. I was supposed to do this for yesterday's episode, and I apologize that I did White Zombie instead. But today we are doing The Mandalorian, Seasons 1 and 2. This is the first Star Wars streaming show from Disney Plus. Very dope. And honestly, it's almost a perfect show. I loved it so much. The main reason I watched it isn't because it's Star Wars, because, like, I love sci-fi and, etc. But, I didn't watch The Mandalorian while it was airing. I didn't start The Mandalorian until the day before the third episode of WandaVision came out, which was like 1/22/21. Yeah. But I loved it. I was like, I have good internet now. One of the main reasons I didn't watch it sooner was because I don't watch a lot of streaming stuff because I have bad internet at home because I'm in such a rural area, etc. I live on a farm. And I didn't want to watch it on my phone, which is the only place I can stream stuff. Because I was like, it's such a grand thing. I don't really want to watch this on a tiny little screen. I want to watch it on a bigger screen. And I finally did. I was able to watch it on my friend's smart TV while I'm house sitting for them. So that's really good. But I really loved The Mandalorian. The main reason I wanted to watch it was because I am a huge fan of practical effects. I am one of the biggest fans of practical effects. And this show was very committed to practical effects. It had like stop motion, and it's not filmed in, like, there's no green screen in it. All the backgrounds are really there, even if they aren't like things the actors can walk into. There's puppets, etc., animatronics, like, just incredible practical effects. Thank you so much for your commitment to practical effects, because Star Wars kind of went from being known for cool pack practical effects to being known for shit CGI, because the prequel trilogy is a CGI fuckfest. If Lucas could do something CGI, he did do something CGI. And then he also like went back to the original series, the original trilogy, and put a bunch of CGI in them unnecessarily and was constantly editing them. So the fans stopped thinking about how cool the practical effects were in Star Wars and started thinking about how bad the CG was. Rogue One and Solo Star Wars Story were also CGI fuckfests, but the CGI was, at least it wasn't bad CG. And then we got the sequel trilogy. Say what you will about it, I enjoyed it more than most, except Rise of Skywalker, one of the worst films I've ever seen. But the practical effects in those are great. They use a ton of them, and they're blended perfectly with CG. But The Mandalorian was like, screw it. If I can do it practical, we will do it practical, and I really appreciate that. So the show is about a Mandalorian. Lots of people just call him Mando. Who's part of this kind of zealotous Mandalorian like sect that doesn't ever remove their helmets. Because I was watching it and I was like, what's with this helmet never removal thing? That's weird. I've never seen Mandalorians do that before. But then it was explained in season 2, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. Because Bo-Katan showed up, and I was like, oh, look, it's Bo-Katan. You all remember Bo-Katan from Clone Wars. But yeah. So, it's about him, and he's in this bounty hunters guild, and he has to get this asset for, this is post Imperial rule, but there's still like Imperial sects and stuff all over the place, because you remember the Emperor died, Death Star blew up, etc., but that doesn't end the Empire. Like, the Empire still, like, in the old continuity, the Empire still existed throughout the New Republic. They were just, like, off in the corners of space, and they weren't run by Sith anymore, and they had no real power. But they still had, like, a couple planets. Because I remember I was reading one book, and this was like when Leia and Han's second kid was, like, a teenager, maybe? And he like there was Imperial stuff happening. Like they weren't at odds with the Imperials. Like Leia was negotiating with them. This is after she like decided she didn't want to be a Jedi and stuff. So Imperial stuff still exists. They're just weak and kind of running out of money and etc. etc. He's supposed to deliver this asset, which I'm sure you all know is Grogu, aka Baby Yoda. So the first season is he takes Baby Yoda to them, but then he like steals Baby Yoda back because he feels guilty because he's just a child, and he's kind of protecting Baby Yoda from them for the first season. And then in the second season, it's him trying to find Baby Yoda his home. Big spoilers. I'm just going to keep calling him Baby Yoda instead of Grogu. Big spoilers. He gives them to Luke, which has started a lot of fan responses on the internet that are like, if Luke takes Grogu to train, doesn't that mean Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren killed him? Which is very possible. But also, what if Baby Yoda is one of the Knights of Ren? Then he'd also be dead. So, oh my god. That'd be so cute, him in his little Knights of Ren outfit waddling around. Knights of Ren were so stupid. But, yeah, and that was really cool. And one thing I like to say about the show is, so my biggest overall complaint about the sequel trilogy was that before they went into production on the first movie, they did not have a full story for the trilogy. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you're going to make a trilogy of films and you're starting out and you know you're going to make a trilogy with an overarching story, why would you not plan the trilogy ahead of time? They planned it one film at a time. So like Abrams made the first film. I forget the name of the guy that directed The Last Jedi, even though it was actually my favorite film in the trilogy. Then someone else made The Last Jedi, and then Abrams like walked it all back and made The Rise of Skywalker, aka Shit Sandwich. And they didn't know how they wanted the trilogy to end when The Force Awakens was released in theaters, and even when The Last Jedi was released in theaters. And then the last one felt like it was written by a child. So, that was bad. In this show, when I finished season 2, which is as far as the show's gone, it will get a season 3, but this is as far as it's gone at the time of recording this, I was like, I could tell that this moment, they knew they were going to have this happen before they even started writing the first episode of The Mandalorian in season 1. They 100% had a plan for both seasons before they started making the show, and they followed it through because there's so much good foreshadowing and everything is set up well. Like, whenever something happens, there was basically a setup for it. And that's really impressive because that's one thing that lots of writers do wrong is they like forget to set stuff up. They'll like in your first draft, you probably won't do that much because it's your first draft, and then once you've decided on your ending and stuff, you kind of go back and you add foreshadowing and stuff in your next drafts. But this series did that great. Everything was foreshadowed, everything was set up. Incredible. The characters were very fun. There was a good balance of like drama and action and humor. Like there's this one scene where Mondo's like, these X-Wings basically like ask him to ping them his identification and stuff, and it's like he's being pulled over by the cops. It's so funny. There are so many funny scenes like that. So many lovable aliens and fun alien designs. Like the frog alien I thought was a very fun design and a practical effect, etc. There is, of course, fan service. Any long-running, highly popular franchise like Star Wars is gonna have fan service. But here's the thing. Most fan service is like forced, and it doesn't add anything to the story. All the fan service in this show felt organic, like it was naturally part of the story, except one bit of fan service. Boba Fett. Boba Fett did not feel like a natural, organic addition to season 2. It felt like he was forced in there just because this is a show about a Mandalorian and people expected to see Boba Fett because he's the only reason people care about Mandalorians. You know what I mean? Even though he's technically not one. So the inclusion of Boba Fett seemed forced. When I saw his armor on like Tatooine and then someone else was wearing it, I figured it was like, I knew Boba Fett was alive because I know they brought him back. And like I was like, oh, the Sarlacc pit probably spit that up because it was undigestible. Jawa's got it, sold it to him. Mondo took it. Then Boba Fett shows up and he's like, where's my armor, dude? Where's my armor, Jin? Jin? D-J-I-N? Like a genie? I forget Mondo's real name because I don't think anyone really cares. But they, and then he's like fighting with Mondo and okay, so there's this is big spoilers. Towards the end of the show, Mondo's ship gets destroyed right after Boba Fett is introduced into the show. And the only reason his ship is destroyed is so that Boba Fett can give him a ride and still be in the show. That's the only reason his ship was destroyed. Because if his ship was not destroyed, Boba Fett probably would have just gone his own way. You know? And even then, Boba Fett doesn't really add anything to the show. Because Bubba's like basically their chauffeur, and that's all he does. He drops them off on this like planet that has a secret Imperial mine. And he doesn't help them after that. He drops them off and then he just stays with the ship. And they do all the work like by themselves. And Boba Fett doesn't help. And then there's this big final plan they have to get Baby Yoda back after he's been kidnapped by the Empire. And Boba Fett like uses his ship to help their ship get on the Imperial ship. And then Bubba just bounces. He just hyperspeeds away because, huge spoiler, the show ends with Luke coming to get Grogu to train a new generation of Jedi. Boba Fett can't be there when Luke shows up because Bubba tried to kill Luke in Return of the Jedi. So he can't be there when Luke's there, story-wise. So Bubba just doesn't help. But Bubba's, like, companion stays to help? Weird. And I know what many of you who've seen the show are thinking. You're like, the reason Boba Fett was there was to set up the Book of Boba Fett, which is a miniseries that's going to be on Disney+. And that's what the after-credit scene on the final episode does as well. The after-credit scene shows Boba Fett taking over Jabba's palace and becoming the new, like, crime boss. Right? Yes, Jabba's already dead at this point, but that, I think it's a Twi'lek. That Twi'lek guy who was like Jabba's like right-hand assistant took over and got real obese, which I thought was funny. And then Boba killed him and took his place. Which was cool. So they did that. And there, everyone's like, oh, yeah, you see B3? That's just because they were setting up the show. But why? See, here's the thing about streaming shows. In a streaming show, you're not following the same rules as regular TV. You don't have to follow time constraints, because a regular TV show has time constraints because of ads. You have to fit ads on it, and you have to fit everything into a time block. But on a streaming show, you're watching it like your audience is watching it just on a whim, and you don't have to worry about advertisements, especially on Disney Plus, since there's 0 ads. Right? 0 ads on Disney Plus. I wish they'd take those ads off my Hulu because I don't want to pay for premium. But so there's 0 ads. You're not beholden to advertisers. You're not beholden to time slots. None of this stuff influences you. So in your Boba Fett show, you can take basically, like, you can set him up set everything up within the Boba Fett show because you have the time. You don't have to set up Boba Fett's whole thing in The Mandalorian. The only reason Boba Fett's story is for his miniseries is set up in The Mandalorian is because he wears Mandalorian armor and because Mandalorians probably would not have even become a culture that the Star Wars Expanded Universe made if not for the fact that Boba Fett just looked really cool and had good toy sales. So I felt like the inclusion of Boba Fett was really forced. They could have given him all the time he needed in his own show to get everything done. He did not need to be in this show. I did like the sniper that was working with Boba Fett, who was an adversary of Mondo's early in the show, becoming an ally of his by the end. I liked that. I kind of like villain redemptions. They're very fun and very cool. And part of it kind of felt right. It seemed like something she would do, because she was kind of this seemingly heartless badass in her first appearance, but also like it seems like all these people Mondo encounters, while not being Mandalorians, do have some honor, and that's kind of like why these people are attracted to him, because they see how honorable he is, and they themselves have a personal honor, even if they don't have a strict honor code like he does. Very cool. Speaking of his honor code, he breaks it twice in the show. He removes his helmet so his face can be scanned, and he removes it in front of a bunch of Imperial officers. Of course, they don't recognize him as the Mandalorian, because no one's seen his face since he was a child. But he does that, and in front of someone who knows he's the Mandalorian, another undercover person. And it's like, wow, he's more concerned with getting Grogu back than he is his honor. And that's impressive. That shows so much character growth. And then, at the end of the show, before he says goodbye to Baby Yoda, he takes off his mask in front of all of his allies, pretty much. Maybe one or two weren't there. Because Boba Fett and what's-his-face, the guild guy who became like the mayor or whatever. I don't remember his name. I don't remember a lot of names in any shows. If you go back and watch like all of my reviews, I can never remember almost all characters' names. So he does this, and he reveals it in front of everyone. And we don't even... Here's the good thing. We don't get reaction shots from any of them upon seeing him take it off or seeing his face the first time, because the scene is solely focused on his relationship with Grogu. He was like, I can't let Grogu go without seeing him with my own eyes and letting him see me for who I am, because they're so connected, father and son. And it might very well be the last time he sees him as well. So I was like, that's touching. Speaking of Grogu, Grogu is incredibly popular. Ever since he first appeared in the first episode of The Mandalorian, he has had very consistent internet popularity. He is a cultural icon. I would even go on to say that Baby Yoda is an American treasure. He's a national treasure. And a lot of people, if they were making this show, would not have had Grogu leave at the end of season 2. They would have been like, look how popular he is. Look how much merch he moves. We're going to keep Grogu in this show for its entire run. He's going to be in every episode. Like, let's take a look at some other franchises who have done this. First one that popped into my head, Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy comes out. Groot is very popular. Everybody thinks the little dancing baby Groot is super cute. So, what does Marvel do? They take baby Groot and they focus like the entire marketing campaign for the second film around him. All the merch was baby Groot. We get to the film. The whole film is basically the Baby Groot show. And it's like, you just know the cute thing will move merch. So you're focusing on the cute thing instead of like an actual story. Like I've only seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 once because I like didn't think it was very good. Just stupid. So Disney's even done it before, like you see here. But they had so much integrity about it. Grogu exits season 2 and the show's continuing. Like, you could have ended The Mandalorian on the last episode of season 2. You could have just ended it there. And maybe it was originally supposed to end there until it became a cultural icon. Who knows? But it was like, if the show would have ended right there, I would have had no problems. If that was the last episode of The Mandalorian to ever come out, it would have been such a good natural end. Part of me can't wait to see what season 3 holds, but part of me's like, can they top that? Can they top that season finale? I honestly don't know. But there's so much to see still. Like, what's Bo-Katan gonna do? Because Mando is now the rightful ruler of Mandalore. He has the Darksaber. What's she gonna do? She has to fight him at some point. Is she gonna betray him? Is she gonna try to kill him? Are they just gonna have an honorable combat where they have to force someone to yield? Probably that's what's gonna happen, but the last one. Very interesting. There were a couple details I were unsure about. Ashoka's motivations were a little confusing. Okay, so Ashoka was like, where's Admiral Thrawn at one point in this before she exited? And I was like, I've seen season 7 of Clone Wars, so I know how her story in Clone Wars wraps up. But I haven't seen Rebels, and I'm going to start watching Rebels here soon. I have no clue what happened, because spoilers for the end of the Clone Wars, season 7, the Disney Plus season, she gets her lightsabers back and then discards them again? After Order 66, and then she has lightsabers in this, and she's used. It seemed like the Force was almost something she was walking away from at the end of the Clone Wars. So, and also all the Thrawn stuff. Apparently, Thrawn's in Rebels. I know nothing about current continuity Thrawn. I know nothing about current continuity Thrawn. I only know about the, like, what's it called, legacy continuity now that everything Disney got rid of. I only know about that Thrawn. And his abilities in Star Wars miniatures, because in that game I always use Thrawn. So, because he extends my commander effects. Whatever. No, the mouse droid extends his commander effects to my Boba Fett. There. So, the damn... I wasn't sure what she was doing. She was like, take me to your boss. I know who your boss is. And I was like, who's the boss? And she's like, where's Thrawn? And I'm like, wait, Thrawn? What's he have to do with any of this? Because I heard he was, like, back in continuity, but I don't know why or how. So now I gotta watch Rebels just so I understand. Because obviously that set up her show, but she felt like she should have been in there. Because he needed a Jedi to talk to, and she's the main Jedi that people know who's not Luke that's around in that time period. So that makes sense that she's the one that he talked about Grogu with. But now I gotta watch Rebels, because when Ashoka's show comes out, which has been announced, it's obviously going to be about her going after him. And to understand it, I'm going to have to watch Rebels. That's one thing about all these spin-offs and shows and stuff, is that you got to keep it straight. Like, I have a hard enough damn time trying to keep the Arrowverse straight, and most of its shows aren't even good. So, I'm going to have to keep this straight as well. Tisk, tisk. So that is it for The Mandalorian. It's got, like, good acting, fantastic special effects. It's incredibly well written. Basically, everything about The Mandalorian is good. The only big problem I have with the show is that the Boba Fett thing felt so unnecessary and overly fan-servicey. So that's it. This is probably a long one. I don't have a counter up on my viewfinder, but thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. Maybe I'll review Rebels once I've seen it. It's been so long since I've seen the first 6 seasons of Clone Wars, I'm probably not going to review it anytime soon. I don't review a lot of Star Wars stuff, but I'll probably review every season of every Disney Plus Star Wars show. I mean, I've reviewed all the movies except the animated Clone Wars movie, and that's because I didn't really care for it. That's it. Thank you all once again for your support, and I'll see you all next time. No clue what I'll review, but it'll probably be something older. See you then.